So, Trump's getting Greenland push escalates as Gopal mega moves to make it America's 51st state. He wants the US to acquire Greenland voluntarily. It's not if the US wants to, it's if Greenland wants to. They've got to have them people actually vote on it. You can't just take over a country and have no repercussions. Like, it's not like Venezuela where they had a corrupt dictator as the leader. This is just a country. It's like them trying to say, oh, we want UK to be our newest one. That's not how it works.
Even though it is covered with ice, President Trump has his sights set on acquiring Greenland to protect U.S. national security.
Even though it is covered in ice, and then you show videos that show zero ice. There's more ice in America at the moment. Hint, hint.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor.
Now, President Trump has reportedly...
Alaska's already literally next door to Russia, and Alaska is a state. Greenland's further away from the USA from Russia than the USA is. Or am I mixing this up? Like, you got Russia, and then Finland and Sweden and Iceland, Greenland, United States, Canada, Alaska, and then Russia. Greenland is not near. And yet again, China, USA, Greenland. They're about the same distance. Like, I don't see how that's going to... Oh my God, the Labrador Sea. Is it filled with Labradors? I want it to be filled with Labradors. Alive ones. Anyway, let's continue.
Ordered the military to drop a plan for a potential invasion of Greenland. Well, Joey Jones is at the touchscreen with more. So, Joey, let's break it down. Who has control of Greenland now?
Yeah, well, the Danes have control of Greenland, Denmark.
Yep.
So Denmark has what we call, they're responsible for basically their economy, their defense, their diplomatic policy. But Greenland itself is an autonomous territory of Denmark. And what that means is they control basically their domestic policies. They have their own government, and they've actually been working towards independence since 1979, really was when they started what they call autonomous control or self-rule.
They've got a space base and they're not an independent country. There's plenty of countries in the East that don't have space bases.
And it's been working that direction. And so the reason why we want to look at this is a huge, almost continent. It's the largest island we have. And so if you look at it in respect to where we are in North America, it is huge. But if you look here, the green area, that's where it's populated. There's only about 57,000 civilians here. And then these little dots, they represent a couple of different things. They're both our military bases, like we have one, which is our Space Force base. And then you also have the
Space Force!
Joint Arctic Command of the Danish military here. The rest of these are where a lot of their rare earth minerals and opportunity to make money places are.
Oh, what a surprise! You've done your look, you've done your search. Like, oh, we've got a couple of these bases, but there's all this money. What? Just let them be an independent country. You don't have to take them over.
That we're looking at. Greenland's economy kind of just depends on fishing right now, and so Denmark actually supplements that. So when we talk about acquiring Greenland, that would be a part of the conversation.
So, Joey, you kind of touched on this a little bit here already, but in terms of the location of Greenland. Why is it so strategically significant for the United States and our national security?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of self-evident, right? I mean, we talk about, this is the Arctic, right? The Arctic Circle up here, but this is the Arctic Ocean. When you look at some of our adversaries like Russia, their quickest route to us, or just even to access our hemisphere, is through the Arctic Ocean. This is called the Greenland, Iceland, UK Gap, which is this area here, which is best for ships to transport. So there's a couple of things here. One is economic and merchant ships, those kind of things. The other one is military. You got to be able to monitor this, and it's hard to do that from over here.
This is already monitored by the European Union. Iceland don't have a standing military. They don't have anything. They have the Coast Guard, and they have their local quick force thing, but they have no army. They are entirely protected by the EU and the European Union. So if Russia warships or anything start trying to come down here, I don't think this whole area is going to just let that happen. Especially when Denmark, a member of the EU and current runners of that, are in control of it. This whole area is watched by the EU. So it's just the fact that Donald don't trust us.
It's hard to build firm structures on a base that's back here, which is where our current Air Force only base is.
Then have a base put here.
So this idea that if Greenland were all American territory of some sort, United States territory, our eyes looking at our foes would be a lot easier to do, especially in this area that's very sensitive and very important to pretty much everyone that we consider to be someone that's not our friend. So just not only the size of the continent and the fact that it's in the Arctic, which is the next untapped resource, from everything from oil and gas to rich minerals to even research on climate change, it's also just its strategic placement next to not just our friends in Europe, but obviously our foes in Russia and China.
Then just have a base or something there. You don't need to take over the whole country just because you're scared that Russia or China will. At the end of the day...
Joey, you briefly touched on the shipping routes in the region.
Yeah.
Can you show them and talk to us about why specifically they're important for the U.S.?
Now, you got to understand, maps are sometimes out of perspective. That's why we tried to blow up Greenland and show you, well, blow up the picture of Greenland and show you how important it is. So when we look at this, we're taking a large look, looking down onto the Earth. And so what you see here is this entire North Asia here is Russia, right? Here's North America. So it might be hard to kind of see that right away. And then you got the Arctic Circle in between.
That's a really
these shipping routes, some of them are not there yet, like the Transpolar Sea route, which would be the easiest from Russia back around. That doesn't exist yet. That's in the Arctic Ocean. But these other two, the Northwest Passage and the Northern Sea route, these are being used all the time. And as you see, these two go around each side of Greenland, especially the one that comes through Canada here. And so these routes are how commerce is done around the world.
Have a base in Canada. If this is the problem, and these are the routes that you want to watch, speak with Greenland, speak with Denmark. You've already got a Space Force base and military bases here. Get some put here. That won't be an issue. The UK is a big supporter and big friend of the US's. Get another base in the northwest or something. I'm pretty sure someone would be game for that. Iceland, they're defended by the EU. They're iffy, but they might let you. You don't need to, by force, take another country that's meant to be a sovereign force that isn't an aggressor, isn't anything, just because you're worried that another guy will. That makes you just as bad as them. Just... if you're worried about it, defend it. Don't take it, defend it.
Have some sort of a say in that, and to not be able to be pinched off as the United States from bringing things in from the north, that's a big deal. And also our ability to get things to and from, you know, a United States state, Alaska, is an important part of this too. Not to say we're going to go at war or be at odds with Canada anytime.
I was about to say, everything's coming from there, right next to Alaska anyway. So just have a bigger defence in Alaska. That cuts that off anyway.
Soon, but we have seen in the last couple of years, sometimes President Trump uses tough rhetoric with Canada, and sometimes we get into a tussle with them, and we may want to have more access or more control in that region.
Yeah. Well, Joey, can you describe the Russian military presence?
Yeah, this is quite amazing when you think about it. So, again, we're using maps here. You got to use your imagination a little bit. This is not flat. This comes up to the Arctic Circle. This all comes to the top of the sphere.
Don't tell that to some people. This is not flat. Oh, they might have a balmy with you.
So if we draw a line and just consider this, you know, the north part of the approaching the Arctic Circle. Look at all of these Russian military bases, hundreds of them. And in those Russian military bases, which are on Russian land, but incredibly close, if not in the Arctic Ocean and Greenland, which is incredibly close to us, we look at some of the assets here, and that's where we start to take notice. There are naval assets here. Think a lot of their nuclear submarines, things of that nature, and opportunities to cross the Arctic Circle and get to us really quickly. Again, what it comes down to is Russia is a northern country. Of course, we're going to have more going on up here. What can we do to monitor this, to combat this, to deter this? You know, we had the nuclear missile crisis in Cuba because they were trying to get closer to us. Well, if we owned Greenland, that's not a problem because then that's our territory and we can put whatever we want there.
If we own Greenland, like, don't get me wrong, if the US took Greenland, it would be good for Greenland. There would be a lot more stuff put in. The wildlife and everything, it would be decimated, and the local Inuit people would probably decline, unfortunately. And I don't want that. But it would be good for them economically. Like, the oil companies and all the companies in the USA would just ram it and attack and go for every natural resource it has, and there would be a massive boom in available resources and ship everywhere. It would be a big thing because it's a massive land, as you can see there. It's like, you know, the second biggest fucking country by the look of it, nearly. So, it'd be amazing. But everything that's being shown just seems like, oh, we're worried about this. You're not approaching your other allies and seeing what they can do. You're trying to be on your own, which isn't always the way to go. Now, I'm not saying the USA doesn't need to be reliant on anyone. We already know that. You're the big boy in the playground. But there's Iceland, there's the UK, there is Greenland, which is owned by Denmark down here. We're all part of the EU. We're all non-adversaries of the US. You could probably speak to Greenland. They will probably allow you to have a military base here that will allow you to watch this strait, so nothing can come down this way easily. You've already got this whole side covered because you've got bases all around Japan and Southern Korea, etc. And this is the US right here, just off of there. So all of these, no chance. You've got surveillance. There's no need to take over Greenland. Taking that over, just the only obvious logical sense is you want the resources. You want the oil, you want the rare metals and all that sort of thing, which I understand, but it doesn't make it right.
Say we can't in some ways already, but it really makes strategic sense. And what's right below Russia in this area, we have another big foe. So this idea that we could have a larger presence there in Greenland, also be able to go in and explore so much there that is natural resources and opportunities to learn the world we're going to live in 100 or 1,000 years.
I think they're really pulling at straws. He's pushed again for it. Let's say Got Bill would authorise him to acquire Greenland and put it on the path to becoming the 51st US state. He's tried that with a few places, hasn't he? Trump has probably pushed the idea of the US buying the Arctic territory. How much would that cost? Their poverty rate is right. Denmark hasn't treated them well. When war came to town, Denmark couldn't protect them. Guess who protected Greenland during World War II? We did. Did they? The US took over protection of the Invert mine. Let's have a Greenland during World War II. Caffeinated. Right, so the fall of Denmark in 1940 left the Danish colony of Greenland an unoccupied territory, an occupied nation under the possibility of seizure by the United States or Canada, a dominion of the British Empire. The United States established several extensive facilities. So during the World War, radio beacons, radio stations, weather stations, ports, artillery posts, Coast Guard, also a portion of civilian resupply. The Greenland traded successfully with the United States, Canada, Portugal. Before the war, Greenland was tightly controlled colony of Denmark. Otherwise, it was closed off to the rest of the world. The UK's navy seized any ships arriving from the Axis-controlled Europe from Germany. we initially laid plans to occupy them ourselves. The United States still neutral, firmly rejected third-party intervention. Rightly so. We shouldn't take it over. It should be left as its own thing. The sheriffs of South and North Greenland. How Greenland was ruled. Denmark was occupied by Nazi Germany during the time. America declared in 1920 that no third nation would necessarily be accepted as sovereign. So you've stopped people from being the owner of it until it's you that wants to be the owner of it. So the US, after the World War, when no one owned it, insisted that no one was allowed to own it and they needed their sovereignty. And then as soon as it comes time for you to want to own it, it's okay. England's defence is 2 dog sleds as he pushes for acquisition of the territory. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.